All right, Big Steve, we are on the air.
Oh, beautiful. Hi, everybody. This is Big Steve Parrish, and we are going to talk about a subject today that I just did a documentary on yesterday at the Sweetwater. They came to film me, and it is the story of Watkins Glen, which was 7 July 28th of 1973. So 7/28/73 was the date. Now, this picture right here is very interesting. This is our stage setup. You see, what the deal was there was that we were going to do the Grateful Dead were the headliners. So we were going to sound check first on the day before the show day. It was only a 1 day show day, but there was going to be a sound check day where we sound check Grateful Dead, then Allman Brothers in the middle, and then the band, which were going to be the openers. So that way you leave the stage set up with the opening band is ready to go the next day. But we got there, the crew and the band, we actually got to the Watkins Glen area, and we were staying at this motel that was quite funky. It was a strip motel, but it was individual little bungalows. It was old time. It was way back, and it had bare light bulbs, and um, very rudimental. We got there. We spent the afternoon there at the hotel. Then the next morning, we took our rented cars and rented truck that we had with all our gear in it, and we went into the site at Watkins Glen Grand Prix Racetrack. Now, when we came into the town, it was normal and untouched. Everything was there. When we left, everything was gone off the shelves. When we drove out of that town, I was remarking, it looked like everything had sold out. Every grocery store was empty of everything they had. So many people came to this show. Now, the best laid plans of mice and men often go astray. We have to give Robert Burns, who was actually a distant relative of Robert Hunter, a kudo on that. So here, everybody had the best intentions. Now, we tried to learn a lot from Woodstock, which was 4 years earlier, Altamont 4 years earlier. But by this time, this was the biggest show to occur. It was bigger than both of those. And uh, this shot here is interesting because the Grateful Dead this was a sound check day, getting ready in the morning, and we were testing everything. And if you see, this is Owsley with the hat on right there. And he was um, checking the whole thing because what we were doing, we're building cabinets also. We just shipped out. We brought a bunch of cabinets that we couldn't finish making, and we were baffling them and cutting them and putting ports in and putting plugs in them to get ready and keep building our two-sided PA left and right. And we had stacks of everything, which was eventually going to be melded together to the wall of sound. So this is a precursor to all that. Now, at this show, um, this is you go back to that other one. I want to talk about those Macs for a second, please. Sorry, but the Macintosh people, we realized there as we were building our little PA on the side, which I'll show you a picture of in a minute, we ran out of Mac 2300 power amps, which were um, just had been made earlier that year. We were using tube amps, 350s before that. We had every kind of Mac there was, always. Real reliable amp. We loved them for all our PA and our power stage amps as we were preamping the Grateful Dead. So we ran out of our amplifiers. They actually, the Macintosh factory was in Binghamton, New York, and they couldn't get into the site because show the picture of the next picture, please. Now, um, they couldn't get near the site, so they had a helicopter the stuff to us, and we made the setup. Now, this is a picture of here. You see the sound check was about to start that same day. a little earlier here, and there's Owsley, myself, Jerry, and Bob Weir over here on the side, and we were getting ready to test everything and to play it, and we're having some discussions about the whole thing, and people were starting to come in by this time. They had busted down the fences and started pouring in, so we never got out of there again. We were there the whole time, which ended up being 3 days, man, 3.5 days. And needless to say, we were all there, the band, the Grateful Dead, and the Allman Brothers, and all of our entourage, the crews were all hanging out together. We knew all the Allman Brothers crew, Red Dog and Payne, and a guy named Buffalo was running around. He was kind of their road manager at the time. And this is way back there, and uh, everybody was really into jamming together and having a good time musically. So it was really fun being with the band as we bonded with those guys really well. Now, let me see the next one, please, Jeremy. Okay, so here's a shot of what the stage looked like during that sound check time. As when we went on the next day, we didn't go on till dark. So that's what I could tell. This is a sound check day. Now, Levon Helm was the drummer for the band, and he had a crack in his cymbal. And so me and Ramrod helped him because Mickey had shown us years before when Zildjian cymbals got a crack in them, which happened all the time, and we couldn't afford to buy new ones in those days. Mickey taught us how you could take an 1/8 inch drill and drill on top of the crack and stop it by drilling it out, and then with tin snips you cut the V out all the way to the hole, and the integrity of the cymbal still remained perfect because cymbals are laid out brass wire that's pounded by hand to make these beautiful bells, or what you would call cymbals. So we were teaching that to him. There was an exchange of all kinds of stuff going on. Another thing that happened there is interesting, and I'll show you that in a minute, about with us and the Allman Brothers crew, who worked really well together. The band didn't have that defined a crew as we did, but there was a lot of chaos going on. When the walls were knocked down, the people just poured in. They parked their cars all over the thruway. They shut that down. So it became a big scene. Let me see the next picture, please. Now, here you see an idea of how big it was, man. It was a Grand Prix motor speedway, this place. And it was a large track that went all around the perimeter and Grand Prix style. Now, this is the sound booth as far back as we could get it. But at this show, we started our first experiments with some delay towers, which were further out toward the people. I think you can make them out a little bit the first set. There was 2 sets, and we had to go so far back, and we started realizing this, that to get the sound to such a big place, and we just happened to start setting them up at this show. Now, delay towers revolutionized big shows, and they became the way to get the sound to the people way, way, way in the back, man. And so it was chaos going on, and we couldn't leave or come back in. So show me the next picture, please. Now, here is the truth. On the day of the sound check, early in the morning, the band came in. They had to hitchhike. They couldn't get in any other way. A deadhead was driving this white car, and his buddies are up on top on the roof. And Jerry, Phil, and Bobby got rides with these guys. Sorry about the dogs. They're just greeting. Quiet. Oh, great. The entire day was so intertwined with the audience and us because there was no security, so there was really no defined lines of backstage forward, so we had to spend the whole time trying to sort all these people out too. It was very complicated, and when the guys came in with these people, we ended up, they wanted to hang out backstage, and there was no way getting out again. So the band was dropped off, and then they were there with us for the next 3 days. Now, give me the next shot, please. And here you'll see Phil. This is him at the sound check day, getting ready, testing his gear. And he's got an Allman Brothers Eat a Peach shirt on. And there he is testing his gear out and doing a song they were doing for a run through. We just started doing the sound check day right then. And we were building cabinets for the 2 days before that. So we had everything ready and we got those amps shipped in. We were at full capacity. Let me see the next shot, please. Now, here's Bobby in the trailers. There were trailers all backstage. And in those trailers, the band stayed. We slept in some of them. We had to sleep on the ground. And, there was no accommodations, man. It really was tight. There was only a couple of porta johns back there. So we had Bill Graham's production crew. Jim Coppock was the new promoter, and he came bounding up the stage on the first days we were setting up. And the stage was the only place we could have secure because the whole place was, like I say, insecure everywhere. There were no fences anymore. There were no barricades. People were walking everywhere. Backstage, there was a big doughboy pool. So everybody was trying to get in that because it was getting hot. And then it rained. Typical summer weather upstate New York. So here's Bobby around one of the trailers where these great jam sessions, you would go in these trailers and there were the band and the Grateful Dead and the Allman Brothers all mingled together, everybody playing together. That was so much fun. Robbie Robertson, Dickie Betts, Greg Allman, Chuck Laval, a great keyboard player, all the drummers, J-Mo, Butch Trucks, our guys. It was Kreutzmann was there. Now, give me the next shot, please. Now, here's another backstage shot, and here's Jerry in front of one of the other trailers, just talking to some of the people backstage. And a couple of those guys were Allman Brother people that worked with them. And then we were trying to figure out how we were going to keep this thing on track and logisticized. And it was getting pretty crazy out there, and we just had these amazing nights out there together too. Everybody hanging out and a lot of strange things happened. See, Bill Graham's whole crew, we worked with them in San Francisco and out there, and we brought our crew too, our Grateful Dead crew, and there was some bad blood between one or two guys in there. And one of our guys, Sonny Hurd, the next morning, he wouldn't say why, but both his eyes were black and knocked shut. And so was this one other guy, Jay Drever, who worked for Bill Graham. And he was a really serious tech guy, and something occurred there, but it never did get the whole story. So everybody was there, and it was raw action trying to figure out where food was. There was food was tough, and facilities of any kind, the sleeping places. We all just kind of fell asleep on floors in these trailers and everywhere. Let me see the next shot, please. Now, also, everything was going crazy backstage. Like I say, there was this doughboy pool and it was getting hot. And this is an example of it here. You see a couple of guys with security shirts on. Now, we got at those gigs, we got bags and giant garbage bags full of the shirts for Watkins Glen. And they were really beautiful. They had pastel colors of green, pink, yellow, blue, and they were made up with this really nice logo on the front for the shows. And we had so many of them that we loaded them in the truck. They gave them to us and we took them back to the studio. And we used them for years as oil rags for our motorcycles. And we just didn't really like them that much for wearing them. It was the pastels were beautiful, but I didn't even realize we had so many of them. And one day, our Willie, who was our janitor and caretaker of the studio, we weren't there. He decided to clean up some stuff, and he threw giant bags that we still had for years later of those shirts away. Then recently, I saw one of those shirts going for $2,500 on Amazon. On a site selling old memorabilia. Now, this right here is a guy who got backstage, the long-haired guy there, and these two guys wearing the Watkins Glen shirts were security guys that didn't have a chance because people were just everywhere back there. So everybody became a security guy who was working there. And we tried to keep some semblance in the backstage area, but it was a constant porous scene of people coming back there. The stage was all we could hold on to, man. We kept that pretty tight. Give me the next shot, please. Now here's Jerry in one of the trailers. They were pretty big, and there he is, and he's with Chuck Laval, and they're just noodling around and getting ready. And then we had a drum set and all in the trailers. We had a couple of drum sets. We had amps, spare amps in there, and so the jams were incredibly great, man. Really good ones. Give me the next shot, please. Now, here's the stage shot, and this is nighttime. This is the Grateful Dead set when the show had successfully got to the show day. And there's Dickie Betts with his back to us here. And, of course, Jerry and Bobby. And it looks like also there was another guitar player over here. I can only make him out. The guys from the band had to go early, so they didn't stick around for the whole shows, but they hung around all day. Robbie Robertson, he was great. What a great guy. Garth Hudson, of course, the B3 player and organ player for the band, he was a wonderful man, too. What a great guy. But at one point on the sound check day, I went over to his B3. I looked at him, and he was slumped over. I thought something was wrong with him. But one of the road crew explained to me that he suffered from narcolepsy, and so he nodded out for a minute there. But he came right back out, and he played like an angel. That guy was an amazing player. All the people on the stage were very talented musicians. An interesting thing happened when the Allman Brothers were playing. Chuck Laval, who I just showed you on the keyboard with Jerry, he was playing a Fender Rhodes satellite bottom. There's two different kinds of Fender Rhodes, and they were the electric keyboard that everybody used in those days. And it's before synthesizers were perfected. They were still just starting up. But the Fender Rhodes satellite bottom sat on a big bass cabinet that had two big speakers in it. I think they were 14 inches or at least more than 12. And so 12 inches. And so these speakers were there. And Jackson and I were sitting watching their sound check. In the middle of the day, we'd finished the Grateful Dead sound check. And Chuck was playing away. Great player, Chuck Laval. And all of a sudden, the keyboard rig that he was playing, the Fender Rhodes, burst into flames. Jackson and I jumped up because we were really right on and nobody else was there on that side of the stage to rep for the Allman Brothers crew. And so we just pulled Chuck back. We took the whole Fender Rhodes bottom. It was on fire because what happened was they had a speaker that had blown. And when a speaker blows, the voice coil pops out and it's rubbing against the voice. The voice coil is rubbing against the speaker cone, which moves in and out. And so it shorted out. It'd been like that for a while, I guess. With our guys, they were always making us change every speaker immediately as soon as they heard any tweaking in there, because that was a problem with the JBLs that we were using. They would blow out from the powerful amps we were using on them, and so we knew what to do. We threw that burning cabinet right off the side of the stage landed in a mud puddle down there. There was nothing else to do. It could have been very dangerous. That thing exploded, man, with energy of fire. But that's the way we did things in those days. We helped each other. There was an exchange of all of our ideas. Give me another shot here. I think we have one more, don't we?
No, that's it.
Well,
But
that's it.
I do have a question.
What's
If
that?
if they hitchhiked in, how did the band get out?
Well, by the time it came to the third day, no one could get out fast. We had to wait while the roads opened up. It took a long time to get out of there, man. And finally, by that time, we had we had some rental cars, and the band just hung around because there was a scene was going on. So as soon, when we got packed out enough to the truck was going to make its way out slow, we got the band in some cars and we all drove back to that funky hotel that we were all staying in. That was still there. We hadn't been there for 3 days, but our rooms were still there, and we knew we had it planned like that because we slept a little bit, and then we went right to Roosevelt Stadium a couple of days after the shows ended up here. And that's why when people ask me, it was Jerry's birthday in a few days. And so we just went on to the next thing. That whole year was really powerful working year for us, as always. And we were busy all the time. So we didn't even really take time and say to ourselves, wow, man, we just played to 700,000 people or more, or whatever was going on out there was big. Nobody said that. Nobody even remarked about the incredible things that happened throughout the entire time. But it was like that in those days because every day was an amazing trip and every day was a challenge. And so for us to do that gig was just another feather in our cap. Now, all these years later, 55 years or 50 plus years, it's such a great memory, and I'm so glad I got interviewed yesterday, so it's fresh in my mind. I wanted to tell you guys the story of Watkins Glen. Famous gig, but when we left that place, it was like trembling wreck. I don't know. Nobody ever went back there again. And the Motor Speedway there was a big Grand Prix style. It was serious for Formula One cars and all that stuff. It was a big racetrack in that area. I imagine it's still there. That's a good question. I'm not sure. But that's the crazy story of Watkins Glen. We tried a 1 day experiment and it ended up being a week that we were stuck up there. But I wouldn't have traded it for the world. Thank you all for listening. Don't forget, subscribe to our channel, please. And if you like the show, give us a like. It would really help us out. And don't forget the Jerry Garcia Wellness line. These gummies are full spectrum gummies. There's also the blue ones. You can always tell they've got the full spectrum, and the sleeper ones got Jerry Garcia's handprint on them and his signature. That's how you know you got Jerry Garcia Wellness products. And they come also in tinctures of both those kinds. And so go to the website and look it all up. You see this broad spectrum and the sleeping tinctures. There is something else, and the other product is this wellness cream. You look for the swirl, the psychedelic swirl on there, and that's Jerry Garcia Wellness Cream. Really is an amazing product for arthritis and any aches or pains you have. Thank you so much for putting up with us on all this stuff, and don't forget to light up a Grizzly Peak anytime a Big Steve. That's what I'm doing right now. And thank you all for your indulgence and caring about us. And me and Jeremy he helps do this with me, and we really love doing it for you guys. So we'll see you next week. We're going to have another show for you. Thanks, and have a great time.